Hello everyone, my name is Ivo and welcome to Cooking with the Koyas, where cooking is fun, cooking is easy, and it's delicious. So glad you could join me because today, folks, I'm going to share with you my recipe for fried wontons. They're absolutely amazing. Let's get started right now. So here we have one pork chop. This one here is about 6 to 7 ounces, around 190 to 200 grams in weight. And quite simply, all we want to do is roughly chop it up into little pieces, like minced, okay? And keep all the fat. In fact, that fat is going to be invaluable in this recipe. So just chop it all up into little bits. There we go. So you can see there, right? They're just roughly chopped into bits and put them into a bowl. So there we go. And don't worry, you cannot cut these too small. In fact, the smaller the better. And I mentioned the fat. Pork shoulder chops, they're nice and fatty. They're a good choice to make. Okay, so that pork is now done. And to that, we're gonna add a half of one green onion or a scallion. And we're gonna use the bottom half. There we go, right there. And here again, what you wanna do, very, very small. Once it's all sliced, then you can do your dicing. Again, don't worry about the size. Some are bigger than the others. It doesn't matter. But again, the smaller the better. Okay, and we're going to add that to our pork. There we go. And now it's time for shrimp. 10 medium-sized shrimp, which are about 5 ounces. Or 150 grams of shrimp. So if you have smaller or larger, you can use the weight measurement to get to that amount. And again, you're going to want to do the same thing with the shrimp that we did to the pork. So we're just going to cut it up into small pieces. And then same thing. Now we're going to add that to our pork. Okay, so I'm going to continue cutting and chopping these shrimp until they're all done and put them into the bowl. Oh, and I should also mention that you're going to want to make sure that you use raw shrimp. Do not get the previously cooked ones, get the raw ones. In fact, these ones had their shell on. I removed the shell, but you definitely want the raw shrimp. Keep them as fresh as possible. So they make for a big difference when you go to make your wontons. Okay, that's the last of it. And I don't know if you can tell on camera there's a nice little piece. You can see how small they are, just little pieces. Okay, we're gonna add that to the pork and the onion. There we go. Now, we are going to add, I have here 1 tablespoon of minced ginger. I got fresh ginger. I minced it myself. If you don't like as much ginger, you could use a half a tablespoon, but I like to use 1 tablespoon. And I'm going to also add 1 teaspoon of brown sugar. So in goes the 1 teaspoon of brown sugar. Okay, that's done. Now we're going to take our tablespoon measurement again. And I have here some soya sauce. We're going to go with 1 and 2 tablespoons of soya sauce. You could use either dark or light. It doesn't matter. 2 tablespoons of soya sauce. I'm also going to add 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar. 1 and 2. Perfect. Okay. So that is now what we want to do is mix these ingredients all together. And yes, you know what I'm going to say. When you think you've mixed enough, mix some more. You're starting to learn. Okay, my kids know that saying, that expression very, very well. But you want to mix it all together because you want to make sure all the ingredients are incorporated. You know, it's those little things when it comes to cooking that make a big difference. Like I mentioned, using raw shrimp instead of previously cooked. All those little things add up to making a big difference when it comes to cooking. I call it the TLC ingredient. A little tender, loving care goes a long way. Okay, so here we go. So our ingredients are now mixed, and so I'm just going to mix them a little more in keeping with my own theory. Because these now, what they have to do, you want them to sit, you want those flavors to basically infuse for at least 30 minutes. So I'm gonna now put this in the refrigerator for 30 minutes at minimum. It could stay up to an hour if you want, or even up to 2. But 30 minutes is plenty for those flavors to get a chance to infuse into each other. So let's put this in the fridge for 30 minutes and then we'll come right back. Our half hour is now up and it's time to have some fun. Okay. So I have some wonton wrappers here. I just bought them at the store. They come nicely packaged. They're very convenient and they're very, very good. So I've got my wonton wrappers here and let's just take one out. Quite simply, it takes a teaspoon anyhow, a teaspoon of our mixture. Okay, just put a teaspoon in the middle. And then quite simply with a little bit of water. You could also use an egg wash if you like, but water is perfectly fine. You just want to seal the edges so they don't open up when they're frying. And then what I like to do, I mean, you could fold these any way that you like, but I like to make them into little bundles. So I will take 2 corners, put them together, then I'll take the other corner, bring it up, the other corner, bring it up, and then pinch it all together. There we go. I call that a little bundle of joy right there. Okay, so a little bit of flour here just so they don't stick. Okay, there we go. And now we can make another one. This is the fun part. And if you have children in the household, by all means, get them involved. Have them do some filling and, you know, start them off in the kitchen, start them young. It's a great place to be and it's a lot of fun. Again, two points together, next point, right? And then just gather them all up into a little bundle. Now, if you don't want to do bundles, you can fold them flat, however you like. That's just how I like to do them because afterwards I like to dip them with some plum sauce and the plum sauce on top and it gets inside all those crevices. So, all right, so I'm gonna just continue taking my time here. That's almost like a teaspoon and a half. Now what happens here? Let's take a look. I might have too much. If you put too much, it won't seal up properly. So that's why I like to use about a teaspoon. So let's see if this teaspoon and a half, I think I'm gonna make it. That's gonna work. That one there, there you go. Okay, teaspoon and a half, not too bad. But definitely 1 teaspoon works a lot better. There we go. There's our little bundle right there. Okay, so I'm going to continue making these. Should be able to make at least 2 dozen, and then we'll make our way over to the stove. There's our last one right there. Just finished that off, put it right there, and it turned out to be 28 wrappers in here. So I've made 28, and you can see here I have just a little bit left over here of my mixture, and I'll let you in on a little secret. I'm not going to save this, although I have another package. I could make some more, but I like to use this when I'm making some fried rice. I add this as an extra flavor enhancer. So there's one of my secrets. I know it's not a secret if you share it, right? But what good is a secret if you can't share it? So that's going to go, I'm going to put that aside, and I'm going to add that to my fried rice as an enhancer. But this I'll keep in the fridge for next time. In the meanwhile, I've got 28 bundles of joy. Let's start frying. Today we're gonna deep fry, but if you don't have a deep fryer, it's not a problem. You could use a pot, just put your oil in a pot, or a frying pan with some high edges to it. Okay, and I'm using today grapeseed oil. I like grapeseed oil or sunflower oil, as they take a lot of high heat. Now, quite simply, I'm gonna drop those into the hot oil. Gently. And we're going to cook them until they're a nice golden brown. Okay, let's stop at that. I'll do 2 batches. There we go. Once they're golden brown, they're nice and crispy, they're done. So, I'm going to take those wontons. I like to put them on a rack so that they don't get, they stay crispy that way, right? Okay, let's put that back in. And let's do our second batch. Okay. Again, as soon as they turn that nice golden brown, they're done. So depending on the heat of your oil, it doesn't take long, right? It doesn't take long, a minute or 2. depending on the heat of your oil and how many wontons you put in, because they cool the oil down a bit when you put them in. There you go. All right, let's get this second batch going. Oh boy, this is going to be good. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, that is perfect. Beautiful. So let's turn our heat down. I like to fry these, by the way, in case you're wondering, at around 375 to 400 degrees. So let's add these now to our other wontons that have been sitting patiently waiting and cooling. There we go. Beautiful. Oh boy, I am looking forward, folks, to getting into these. I can tell you that right now. These are going to be so good. All right, speaking of that, I got to give them a minute or two to cool because they're going to be very hot. But the taste test, folks, it's coming up. As you can tell, I'm a very happy guy right now because these folks are going to be extremely, extremely tasty. Who would have thought that pork and shrimp put together would make such a great combo? All right, and I like to dip them into a little bit of plum sauce. Just dip in the plum sauce a bit, just like that. Delicious. As my friend Dirk would say, it tastes like more. so I'm gonna have more. You know, we used to have a place called the Regency that we used to go to for wontons and wings, and the wontons were amazing. I used to go there as a youngster. And now I'm very happy because I think I can repeat that recipe pretty much right here because these are just as amazing. Perfecto. Folks, if you get a chance, fried wontons. They make for a great little appetizer. If you have a dinner party going, go around as an aperitif or just as a snack, especially during a ball game or something. They make for a great snack. But wherever you're tuning in from today, I'm very happy to be sharing this recipe with you, and I sure hope that you give it a try. That would make me very happy. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, until next time, buon appetito. Oh yeah, get them while they're hot. Get them while they're hot. So good.